Hello, welcome to the new show, which is called Too Old for This Shite. Not shit, you see, because there's an E at the end of it, and it's an Irish thing, so it's not a swear word. Show, for people who are unfamiliar with it, since it's the first one, I presume you would be, it's just about a couple of Zennials just talking shit about things that we're up to, and things that we're too old possibly to be into. Because we were talking about this there a while ago, saying that, and I think it's nearly the click clacking that you'd hear as our little dog Frodo tapping around, which I'm sure like this is the whole thing. Like people years ago would not have called the dog Frodo. It'd be like
Spot.
Yeah, Spot or Jack. Sport, yeah, you know, kind of a thing. Whereas kind of like our generation, you do kind of feel it's that Fight Club thing where you're just like, we're not men, we're not grown-ups, we're
still children.
Yeah. Which it's not, I'm sure it's just like people that were our age. Well, yeah, no, face it, we are children kind of a thing. It's people, it was that thing kind of like when you get to 30, no, you don't look at movies. If you look at movies, it's cowboy movies with John Wayne in it, or films about dogs or survivalists, or with Charles Bronson. Although we've looked at our fair share of Charles Bronson movies over the years. But anyway, yeah, look, that's just an overview of what the show is. Fucking rambling. There's probably going to be a lot of rambling because we're old. So yeah, but yeah, I just want to start off the show by talking about Nosferatu.
Which is
the 2024 version of it, Robert Eggers' version of it. We looked at it finally the other night. I was really looking forward to it because I like Robert Eggers stuff. I really liked The Witch. I liked the Lighthouse as well. So, and everyone seems to like this. Everyone was raving about it. And we looked at it the other night, and I suppose cutting a long story short,
underwhelming.
Yeah, wasn't really too pushed on it. So this episode we're going to be taking a shit on Nosferatu from it.
Literally.
Yeah, and like, I mean, when I was watching it, all I kept thinking was like, when's it going to get... Sorry, what's going to be different about this? I was really... Like, the two of us are movie fans, as you'll come to learn over the thing. And I really thought that they were going to bring like the German expressionism into it. A lot more. I thought that it was going to be a little bit more cinematic than it actually was. There was a lot of like just quiet scenes. It didn't have the same kind of edge as a lot of these other films had, I thought. It was shot like really well. There were some lovely scenes in it, but
yeah,
it wasn't like the whole way through. There was a lot of still moments talking in bedrooms, or you know, there wasn't like a weird directorial kind of feel to it.
I don't think they kind of made a lot of, like, there was a couple of nice, I suppose, cinematic shots that they would have made a lovely postcard, I suppose, or something like that. But it didn't have that feel, as you said, of like German expressionism or something like that, where there's like an awful lot of light and shadow play around like that.
That's what I thought he was going to like really lean into him, from the trailer to it, where they showed the bit with the hand going along, and like even
that's the only one sort of thing you could even say that was a bit sort of like, oh look, it's reminiscent of the original Nosferatu.
Yeah, and even at the end where it was like the famous images that everyone should know that are like of Nosferatu going up the stairs with the shadow, which has been like copied and used, and like, I mean, not even gonna fucking, like, I suppose I'm saying it now, but spoilers for 100-and-something-year-old movie, because it's not that it's a shot-for-shot remake of it, but it's a remake of it. I was expecting it to be fairly different. There's elements from the classic Dracula brought into it, but it's only a few elements with it. And like I've seen people saying, oh well, it's not like a Dracula it is a Dracula thing. Nosferatu was a rip-off of Dracula, and they were just trying to change a few bits of it to get around like copyright infringement, and they were like sued the shit out of him by the Stoker fucking family at the time, and it was that they were meant to destroy all copies of it, but some copies destroyed. Like, thank God some of the copies survived it. But like, I mean, Nosferatu is a blatant rip-off of Dracula. It's just set in Germany as opposed to England with it, and I was never really a fan of Nosferatu. And what about you? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, I suppose the main draw for this really was just sort of how cheekbony everyone was.
Yeah, there was a lot of kind of like people underfed kind of.
Yeah, there's all these like sharp cheekbones and angular sort of people, and like very wistful sort of like I don't know, maidens kind of like swooning away in the moonlight. And I mean, I suppose just to give a bit of background, I suppose it's Johnny Depp's daughter.
Yeah, Lily Rose.
Yeah, Lily Rose Depp is
Johnny Depp.
the sort of the lead there. And what's his name? Nicholas Hoult, isn't it?
Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult was good in it.
Yeah, that's it. But it's just kind of a lot of I don't know, just I suppose an awful lot of close-up face shots and stuff like that, with two of them being particularly miserable.
It was more downtown
Downtown Abbey, eh?
yeah, Downton Abbey than
Jesus, I pay money
a German
to see
kind of
Downton Abbey,
expressionist horror movie. You know, it's and like, I mean, I liked Aaron Taylor Johnson in it because he seemed to be really fucking hamming it up, and he kind of seemed to, I don't know, it was almost like he was aware that this was like, or in his head it was like, oh yeah, fucking kind of like, you know, English lord. So, yeah, he seemed like he was nearly taking the piss with it. Whereas everyone else was like going into that, oh, we're English. And it's like, you're meant to be you know, there was a lot of, I don't know, I didn't like it.
I think I'm gathering that.
Yeah,
right,
it was just, I found it very disappointing. For me, I love Dracula, and as well, it could be just a thing that it's like, how many times over fucking 40 odd years can you look at
retell the same story?
Or watch someone retell the same story. It's, for me, fucking Coppola's version is superior to this, like mild superior. I think there's more stylistic elements in Coppola's thing with that nods back to fucking like the time it's set in, and like the birth of cinema. Even like the whole thing with Coppola's thing where it has like with the puppets, you know, the shadow puppets. I think there's just, it feels like there's more of a love of cinema in that.
Yeah.
Now I can understand why people, that I was saying to you when we were watching it, that like I can understand why people that probably grew up on Marvel movies and all that, they'd look at this and go, oh my god, it's in, because it is, it's
there are some absolutely outstanding shots, but having said that as well, they're kind of like, I actually remember commenting on it. I was like, oh wow, that's a nice shot, but it's like, it was not flagged up as, this is a nice shot.
Yeah,
you should be
the one where he was standing with, when he was on his way up to the castle, and
so you're sorry, it's all framed by the trees and it's all snowy, and like this carriage just comes up, and
but it didn't have that weirdness to it. You know, even like Coppola's Dracula, that scene, there's that weirdness where it's like the music, and there's that where he nearly floats up onto the carriage, and Dracula, you know, there's a lot more
dreamlike kind of a thing.
Yeah. But with this, it just all felt very
It almost felt a little bit CGI in those moments as well. It's kind of like, oh look, here's a nicely framed and the snow.
I'd imagine that there was a lot of it was CGI.
Yeah, but it's just kind of, it almost reminded me, I suppose, of a cutscene from a game where it's like, right, now is the cinematic bit, watch this and ooh and ow kind of thing, and now we get back to the story, and I didn't really, I don't know, didn't kind of sweep me away or anything like that. I was kind of like, okay, I'll watch it, but at the same point I thought there was an awful lot of like breathy swooning and stuff like that as well, which I thought it should have been a little bit, I don't know, just more get on with it.
Yeah. And like, I get with the, like, there was, I was expecting a lot more from the way people were talking about it as well, even with this whole thing about Lily Rose Depp was good in it, I'll give her that, but I kind of thought that the way people, it's like more of an exorcism movie, people were saying. And I was looking at it and it's like, it's not. I don't see how and they were like, oh, she called out, so it's about like Victorian sexuality and all that. And it's like, I get it, it kind of hits you over the fucking head with it. There's nothing subtle about that. Yeah. And like, I mean, the thing is, well, like I was saying to you again when we were watching, that's the whole fucking thing of Dracula. That's the whole thing with vampire movies. It's
seductive. It's the bloodlet and the bite and the neck. Absolutely the sort of.
And it's more subtle than I think Nosferatu was. And like, I mean, Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu in it, he was all right.
He was kind of wasted though. Do you know what I mean? Like, there wasn't enough, and it was just like, I don't know, it reminded me of a cartoon character, but not in a good way. It's like Dick Dastardly or something like that, with the moustache.
It did actually, he looked like, and with the hat as well. Yeah. But, and as well, he was just a bit of a cunt. There was nothing charming about him, you know, he was just...
there was nothing sort of, you couldn't look at him kind of go, oh yeah, I can see why he's all seductive, or someone had fallen under a spell or whatever. It was just like, ugh.
Like, even with oh god, why my brain, look, anyone listening to this, you're probably old as well, you're not going to be fucking tuning in. Everyone has memory fucking problems, but the one with Klaus Kinski in it, Werner Herzog's version, the remake in the 70s, didn't really like that either. Thought that was fucking really boring. But at least with Kinski's character, there was something kind of...
There was something magnetic and kind of animalistic about it as well, you know, whereas this is just like...
But that you could emphasize with, you know... Empathize with, he was... There was something nearly likeable about him to a certain... You know, or you felt sorry for him nearly with it. And William Dafoe's version of him, where he's just like this moronic evil vampire. I thought he was brilliant with that, but like... This version of him, he was just like a horrible animal.
Yeah, pretty much a kind of a beast man as such. Yeah, that's it. And there was an awful lot of stuff that just left me scratching my head in general as well. Like, I mean, when the ship arrives and they get called, you know, their man, obviously, he's like a ship merchant and he gets called down to the port and they're like, no, there's loads of rats coming out.
It's the plague.
It'll be the plague. And they just kind of go, oh well, and they just kind of walk through all the rats, just continuing their chat, and it's like, Jesus, do something about it.
Whereas that was like in the original version with the whole plague thing with Nosferatu, so that was meant to be the difference with Nosferatu, where he's like nearly a plague monster, like a fucking Nurgle fucking thing. There was more about the plague, and there was like an awful remake, well not remake, a continuation called Vampire in Venice. Where it kind of has that as well, where it's like Nosferatu bringing the plague, where, you know, like, I mean, Dracula had rats and things as well, like he's pet rats and he could turn into, you know, there was a lot more.
What?
Yeah, but there was more too, you know, there's more charisma to it and more of a magical feel to it, or in this it was just like, and as well, I kind of thought that they were going to go for this whole thing, that they knew each other in a past life. I thought that's what they're, and then it's like, it's not, it's just a thing. She was lonely when she was under her sexuality, like she called out.
She was like a teenager.
Yeah, and he heard her and he kind of came for her. Whereas with the whole Dracula thing of Mina, where it's like a lost love, you know, there's more to it than that. So I thought they were going to do this thing where it was nearly, she's going to be like the reincarnated spirit of some witch that maybe fucking caused him to be, or that the two of them were together, and she's like even more evil than him.
Some link going back through time, and it was just this pattern happening over and over again, where they kept finding each other.
It wasn't that. It was just... You know, it was built up to be more than it was. I think that's probably why I was let down by it. If I kind of knew, all right, this is like just a remake of Nosferatu with like a few small kind of stylistic changes on it, they probably would have, you know.
And I have to say as well, this is like the first film where I actually acted like a true Xennial or Gen Xer, I suppose, as well, and just realised my age, and I was like, can you please turn the subtitles on? I can't actually hear what they're saying properly.
Well, there was some of it. The audio, I thought, was a bit,
Although in fairness, I think I had to do it for The Witch as well. It's like they were using this sort of stilted version of English, which sort of led to it. You know, I'm sure it's to give the atmosphere sort of like, it's the oldie English, but I was like, I had to like... I could, like, I mean, it wasn't happening like that you couldn't understand, but I had to see it written down because I couldn't fucking hear what they were saying. It was ridiculous. It was all too breathy. And
it was the same guy that, like, I can't think of his name, but the father from the Witch, that was in this when he was talking. That's when you were like, what the fuck is he saying?
Yeah, I think it's just the frequency his voice is at. It's just this particular frequency that my ears just went, nope, not for me. I'm no longer young enough to hear those frequencies.
Now, I know we were shitting on it, but that's not it's not a bad movie. It's just a boring movie. I thought I found it incredibly dull.
That's, you've been waiting for ages to see it. You're like, oh, finally, let's go. You know, we'll watch this. And I was like, yeah, cool, let's watch it. And as I was watching, kind of going, okay, I've promised lately, I promised lately that I'm going to stop doing the whole thing of getting distracted and doom scrolling on my phone in the middle of a film and something like that. We're going to make it a special event. We're going to actually, you know, properly sit down, turn the lights off, you know, light the few candles, get the popcorn out and make it an event like it would have been when we would have been kids or teenagers. And I was struggling to give it my full attention. Oh, God, I was just watching it kind of going, oh my God, when is this just going to
All I was thinking about was, I wish that we weren't after looking at Raw. And that it's...
As in WWE.
Yeah, it was really dull. Like, I found it incredibly... And as well, when you know everything that's going to happen in it, or you think you know everything, and everything that you think is going to happen happens in it.
There's no surprises. Yeah.
Oh God, like, you know, I don't know, there was just like... And from what I can remember, like, say, Coppola's Dracula is shorter. But it fits more into it. There's more character development. It's there's a lot more action in it. Like there's no action in this.
But that's, I
Like,
feel your man Bill Skarsgård was absolutely wasted, because we know from it he can be terrifyingly creepy, and with this he was just kind of like,
he didn't show up in it that much either.
No,
it was like there was no threat about him, where you never really got to see what he was fully capable of doing. It was just like you never saw people dying from the plague either. It was just, well, you saw one or two people.
Yeah, there's like hospital scenes and stuff.
But like it never really got into. It's like, oh my god, this like monster is fucking kind of like destroying the whole
sweeping
place
through the city. Like,
it was just like, oh, he's going to show up a couple of times on the trot and kind of drink a bit of blood and then fuck off.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, as I said, we know he can be very creepy and sinister. He can really project that terrifying thing. And it was just like an owl fella having a bit of a wheeze when he turned up. He was like kind of whispering and kind of like, oh. It was almost, he reminded me of like an ent or something like that, the way he was talking. It was like, I'll take a long time to talk.
And now Nicholas Hoult, I thought, was very good when he was in the castle. Like that, say the Jonathan Harker stuff for people that are unfamiliar. He was very good at portraying kind of being scared, but you're like, what's he scared of? There's fucking no
menace, or there's no
With Gary Oldman's thing, you get this whole thing where you see him kind of like, say, walking on ceilings and stuff, and then all of a sudden it's that thing, this is not a fucking man, this is a creep, where you're trapped with it. Whereas with him, he's like, I get the whole thing where they're doing, he's a walking rotten corpse, and that's what he is. He's like just this thing, whereas it's just, I don't know, even with like the original Nosferatu thing that set out the Nosferatu vampire type, Max Schreck was terrifying as him.
And it was, this is another, I suppose, as well, like, I mean, it was believable. He had the long, slender arms and the exaggerated fingers and the sort of the hunchback and the weird teeth, and it was like, you could see someone turning into that. Whereas like the way they had the makeup all done on Skarsgård, it was like fucking puppet hands or something like that. It was overly exaggerated, but not exaggerated enough to be terrifying.
It kind of came across to me as something that they would have like, let's look into what would a corpse look like over kind of like, that was, and that's where they were trying to nearly take it too seriously with it. And it was just, I don't know. It was just disappointing. Yeah. I think.
As I said, like, I mean, great that a film like that is doing good in the cinema.
Oh, yeah.
People are going back to like sort of traditional horror, I suppose, if you want to put it like that as well. And like, I mean, it's terrible. Like, once upon a time we would have been delighted and rooting for superhero films and all the rest. When they came out at first, like, oh, finally they're making a superhero film. Yes, they know this demographic or whatever. But it's just when you've had summer after summer after summer of like,
shit.
Shit CGI essentially and no storyline. And it was nice to see, okay, thoughtful horror coming back out. Yeah, let's.
And like, I mean, there's loads of good. It's just, I think the hopes were higher with Robert Eggers. And the trailer really sold it as, and not seeing Nosferatu beforehand, it was like, oh my god. I tell you what's actually even a modern version that's better than this was the BBC's take on Dracula. The first episode of that, fucking brilliant. That's the traditional one. The second one was like the Voyage of the Demeter, which was done quite well. I didn't the last episode where we're set in modern, where they were trying to like, oh, let's put our BBC kind of Doctor Who modern spin on it. That was a bit shit. And it was only kind of shit because the other two were so, the first one was so
by
good. By
comparison, the others were much better. Yeah.
As Dracula, your man was like, this guy can do some fucking damage. And even like he came across as a wizard. That sounded really weird saying that. Like, but like a powerful magician, even the way he was controlling animals, and he felt like if he gets in, you're all fucking dead. Yeah. Whereas with this, it's just like...
yeah. I know, and there just didn't seem to be any sort of urgency or anything like that. It was like, okay, right, well, she has to give herself a own will and like, basically trick him until the sunlight comes up. And it was just like, oh, she's done that. Oh, he's staying there. Oh, look, the sun is up.
Yeah. And like, that was the Nosferatu thing. So, where it's just...
And it just, that's the thing, like, I mean, okay, the film itself... even though it was a bit slow moving and all the rest, I was still kind of enjoying it for the most part, but then it was just the ending literally just went bleh. Yeah. It was like a tiny little balloon deflating or something like that, and then it was like, oh, the end, over.
And like, that was the original Nosferatu, it was like, it's the same, but like, I mean, this is the thing, it's it's too much. I think they took away some of the weaker things from. Like I mean, let's not forget, Nosferatu was one of the first movies ever made. So it's not as if they fucking had the formula right for, like, it's,
And
I think
things
there's
have come on so much since then. Like, they should have had an awful lot more cinematic tricks. They should have had an awful lot more up their sleeves or whatever. Now, I suppose you could say the same of any film. Like, but it's just when you have a direct comparison like that, where it is Nosferatu versus Nosferatu.
Slow pace does not equal good character design.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes there's a lot of like cheesy 80 movies where fucking bang, 5 minutes in, you know all the characters, you know their motivations, you know everything about them, and it's entertaining. Like the fucking Goonies.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I think sometimes what happens is people get caught up in this whole thing where it's like, oh, this is a wordy movie.
Yes, let's do a dramatization.
Yeah, or they're speaking like an old English, and he put a lot of, there's effort gone into this for it to be this and that, so you have to kind of lay praise on it, because like it's like we're going to talk about 3 movies in this episode. Kind of with it. The Damned is the second one. Yeah, I think you're like, oh, what?
I don't remember this.
Yeah, but The Damned is, well, there's 2 films called The Damned that came out last year. This one is about in a fishing village. With Droger, the bad guys out of fucking Skyrim, the ghosts in it. That also really disappointed me. We looked at another really, really slow-paced movie. We won't get into spoilers too much about that because I'm not going to talk about this, but that was like atmospheric as well.
That's, again, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I suppose to set like a bit of a disclaimer, I have this really weird thing where like I very much enjoy things that are set in like icy wastelands and seafaring things, and when the two collide like this, I'm like, oh yes, this is right in my wheelhouse. It's like The Thing or something like that, and so I was very excited at this, and I was like, oh wow. And it's all these very sort of cold, kind of terrifyingly windswept scenery. And
the plot of it is kind of like The Fog, Carpenter's The Fog, where it's like it's a fishing outpost. I think it might be in Iceland. It's meant to be set. So the whole thing, these guys are trapped there. They went to go fishing. They rent out the boat and all this from somebody, so they have to overwinter. A foreign boat crashes outside, and they basically let all the sailors die, and then they go out to take stuff from the ship, and then they're haunted by a ghost of one of them. Is the very, very basic, so, and that's really what the film is. So it's them dealing with the Droger, but nothing really fucking happens. You don't get to know any of the characters that well in it, apart from your woman.
Yeah, and even that you only get a bit of a backstory. It's sort of, you find out why this woman happens to be out there, why she owns the fishing post. A little bit of backstory about, I suppose, kind of to give her a bit of she's got like, spine of steel kind of a thing. Really,
but she's not really even set up like a Ripley character where you kind of go, wow, she's tough or she's this or that. She's just kind of not really likable, and you're kind of, nah. So when the bad things are happening to people, you're kind of go, I don't care.
And that's the thing as well, because as you said, you don't really get to know anybody. You kind of, when deaths do occur, you're kind of like, oh, there's your man, and I can't even remember his name.
Yeah, I don't know who he is or why he is.
So okay, fair enough, he can die, kind of a thing.
But like, I mean, it was really like you were saying, like what you were into. I saw that and I thought, Jesus, Laura's going to love this. This is going to be great, because the trailer made it look a bit like a mixture of The Thing and The Fog, and a few other bits and pieces, and then it was just like, ugh.
Yeah. And as I said as well, I quite enjoyed it for most of the film. Again, because it kind of seemed to be a slow burner, and it was all these like, oh my God, what was the last thing we were watching that was like that?
Nosferatu.
No. But it's kind of like 28 Days a Night, 30 Days a Night, that kind of thing. There was that kind of a feel of isolation and the snow and the desperation and all the rest, and it was very, very... I like that. Maybe another bit of a worthy film, because it was a bit of a period kind of drama to it. But I was kind of, this is really good and set up to be very spooky. And then the ending, which I'm not going to ruin, it was just like, really? Oh God, is this it?
It's like, it reminded me a lot of, like, there used to be these independent Irish movies and English movies that used to come out in the 90s and kind of in the early 2000s. where it was just very, very basic ghost fucking stories or kind of zombie movies. Fucking hell, if they're and like they're still doing the zombie movies where it's just like you're doing this beat by beat by beat, and it's just like if you're going to go through, like, it's hard to make a movie, it's hard to get the fun for it. If you're going to do it, it should be an exceptional story. There should be mad shit going on in it. Don't drag it out. I don't want to see people sitting around a fucking fire drinking for a half an hour.
And not even saying that, and they're just sitting around being gloomy, or they're sitting around having a drink, but there's no actual exposition, there's no character development.
You should have, when they're sitting down doing that, a minute into it, a giant robot kick the fucking roof off the thing, take a shit on. The shit turns into a bunch of fucking lizard men, or so, you know, it should be just over to, like, movies should be like.
Well, okay, yeah.
I know that that's like mental.
Yes.
But, like, you know, there should be.
No, there should be
a reason.
entertainment. Yes,
there should be a difference with it, because we're like 100 and something years into cinema now. There's too many fucking movies out there. You need to do something that's going to stand apart. I don't necessarily mean mental fucking shit. You can do it in a slow way. But neither one of those, I think, kind of done it. Now, a movie that got shit all over, which we kind of weren't really too aware of, and we saw it coming up on Netflix, was The Deliverance, which I would actually look at that, the exorcism fucking one with the black characters, with Glenn Close in it.
Yeah, you're a nappy pussy.
Yeah.
Well, yes. I suppose that kind of came out of left field, all right. It was just, you're kind of consistently throughout the film going, what's going on here? Yeah, essentially it was like a single black mother with her couple of kids. Her own mother moves in with her to try and help her, and she's a bit of a drunkard and a terrible mother and not raising their kids properly.
She's beating the shit out of these, like, really nice
sweet kids. Yeah,
she's a terrible, terrible mother. The father's out of the picture, and you don't really know why. And then you kind of learn he's fucking fighting in Iraq or something.
Yeah, but he just pissed off, like he doesn't keep in contact
because she's a horrible alcoholic and abusive to everyone. She's just horrible. Like, it's so different. Like, I mean, there is that whole thing. You fear for the kids from her. And, like, there's loads of points where she said, oh, I'm going to be better. And you go, she's going to be better. And then she just beats the shit out. Or she does something horrible. And Glenn Close's character is just fucking horrible.
It's bizarre as well. Like, it's obviously it's her mother, and, you know, even she's like, well, you're a terrible mother too. Yeah. You're an alcoholic. Like, you just had a thing for black men, and you're just constantly. And she's even still to this day as an older woman, partying and trying to, like, grind up on like young 20-something-year-old black men. Even the thing,
stuff, one of the kids at the start of it, what they kind of showed, like, I mean, she loves her kids, but it's kind of complex with it. These are the good things about it. The exorcism side of the movie is just like, it's mental when it does happen, and it's kind of all right, like, whatever. But, like, the whole family, it'd make a really good drama about whether kind of, like, they should have focused on her maybe getting possessed, or is she getting possessed, or is it like the drink? Is she just like a fucking horrible kind of individual, which she is just a horrible, but it's meant to be based on a true story.
But
as
that's
well,
the thing,
is
she's horrible because of her circumstances. She was brought up badly, and, you know, sort of she was abused in her life, and she's trying to struggle through.
I don't mean that it's funny about, like, the real aspect of it, like that kind of stuff, but the demonic kind of element of it is hilarious when it does happen. And I was just reading before we came on that it was like the director was talking, and he was saying, oh, well, yeah, I wanted to do this. And it is really different to have that kind of haunted house thing where the characters are kind of shitheads, because normally it's like this nice innocent family move in, whereas in this it's like and, like, when things start going wrong, you're kind of like, you're still kind of like, oh, fuck, you kind of feel sorry for the kids. You don't want to see the kids getting hurt. But with her, you're just kind of like, fuck her. Like. But yeah, he was saying he wanted it, but Netflix kept saying you got to do this and you got to do that. Because I was only saying to you, when it was finished, I was like, someone definitely came along and said, you got to put this fucking exorcism scene in it. You got to do this and you got to do that. Because that's what happened with The Exorcist 3 as well, Legion. He didn't want to have an exorcism scene, and the studios were like, look, you gotta it's fucking The Exorcist, you gotta do it. And he was like, but it doesn't really fit in, like, it has nothing to do with the story, like. And this is kind of like that. So they have poor Glenn Close getting possessed. Well, it was the youngest kid is possessed by a demon, and then Glenn Close, and that's where I'm sure people might have seen the meme where it is, I can smell your nappy pussy. And it is, you're just like, oh
what
my
is Glenn
God.
Close doing in this? Like, she's dressed like a kind of an Asian slag.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's freaking out all these horrible sort of slurs and stuff, and you're kind of like, what are you doing?
And she's like a goblin from Warhammer when they put the makeup on her. She's got the pointy teeth, or from Mordor. And it's really funny. It's fucking hilarious. I don't think I've ever laughed as much as it. And some of the things that there was like a fucking ad that used to be on RTE years ago. Ireland put this thing out where it was meant to be aimed at, like, you know, like spot the signs of child abuse. But it was this thing, they did it with a cartoon character getting like fucking murdered by his father.
Yeah, but with like the comedy noises.
Yeah,
like,
and thrown down the stairs. And like the end line was, real kids don't bounce. And it's just, you kind of have to see for how badly it was done that it ended up being unintentionally hilarious with it. And that's what this kind of came across as with the exorcism kind of bits. Even with the kid when he was there, he just looked like he had an old man's head. And it's like, I don't know, he's like maybe 6 or 7 or something like that. And there's bits with him getting like attacked by the mother, and it's like, what's going on? I don't know. But I would look at that again over Nosferatu or The Damned. Yeah. Which
100%.
I think is terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, there's 3 films, I suppose, there that we kind of finished off those last 2 films in particular. We're kind of like, right, that's over. Shall we watch the wrestling just to watch something entertaining? Because it was actually that bad where you kind of went, I'm actually pissed off that I've just spent my last hour and a half watching this and for no payoff whatsoever. So
well, it was the thing we looked at as well during the week. We looked at Ghost Ship. Yeah. The thing with Gabriel Byrne, which is kind of awful in its own right, but it's watchable and it's funny. And unintentionally funny, I think, as well.
Of course.
And The Crazies as well, which we've never seen.
I actually really enjoyed that, surprisingly enough. The remake of it with
Timothy Oliphant.
Yes.
And it just playing Timothy Oliphant as he plays and everything.
Just stomping around, scowling and looking absolutely fucking bemused.
But that's kind of, you liked it. Yeah. It is shit, but it is.
I actually really enjoyed it. It was ridiculous.
It's good shit.
Fun. Yeah. That's it. And that's the kind of like that'll probably tell you as well if you're listening. You're kind of like, they've just shat all over like a really worthy film like Nosferatu, another very worthy film like The Damned, and here they are going, yeah, brilliant. The Crazies is fantastic, and it's lovely seeing trucks explode.
Yeah. Well, we had like, if you go over to our YouTube channel, or if you're listening on the YouTube channel for the podcast, if you go through the thing, you'll see there's like we've done other podcasts in the past, and I think one of the ones that did the best out of it, or the ones that is like about Maximum Overdrive. Yeah. So that I kind of tell you, we're not going to be like fucking talking about Othello. Yes. Or maybe we will. You never know. If they do like kind of fucking what was that, Golden Globus, if they come back and they do like an Othello remake with Dolph Lundgren as Othello,
or if you have something like Poochie playing him.
Poochie, yeah,
from The Simpsons. Yes.
But Nosferatu, just sorry to say it,
Nosferatu.
Yeah, Nosferatu. Bong.
Yes.
Bong. But yeah, not good at all. The Damned. Yeah, maybe worth a watch if we haven't ruined it. And fucking The Deliverance, definitely worth a watch. It's so awful. It's hilarious. And then, because I forgot that when we were looking at The Deliverance, that it came up at the start based on a true story. And then kind of at the end where it went through the whole thing, oh, this is what happened afterwards, and this happened, and like the real life woman, you kind of go, fuck off. And there's so many things in it that, and like, I mean, there's the one that comes in that's meant to be the expert that helps him, and she's an awful end where it's like she does fucking nothing. It's just like, at least even in The Exorcist or any of those things, they stood a bit of a fighting chance. And this one, it's just, I think she slips on something and fucking dies.
That's why, to be honest with you, I can't even remember at this stage. But I do remember thinking it just ended really quickly, and then it was kind of.
Yeah, it was like they tagged another ending onto it. Yeah,
and then when that ended, it was we put title cards up and go, oh yeah, she managed to pull her family together, or whatever the fuck it was. I wasn't even interested at that stage.
And it is a shame because like the drama elements in it are actually really good. The cast are actually really good in it when they're not doing the supernatural. The possession bit is the most ridiculous bit. The young kids in it are really, really, really good.
Very empathetic.
But yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
There's a synopsis of our week's watching.
So yeah, look, this is the first podcast. If you want to go over to the website as well, it's going to be a blog about fucking everything and anything.
That catches your fancy.
Too old for this shite. We're going to be fairly regular with the podcast, hopefully, and we'll see what else happens kind of along the way. No pressure.
Cheers for sticking it out so far.
Yeah, if you've listened, thanks for listening. Let us know in the comments somewhere that you've listened. So we don't
I'm sure the comments will be kind of like, yeah, it was all right throughout the whole thing, but then it just fucking ended.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, Nosferatu was great, you fucking heathens. Oh. But yeah, look, thanks. Tune in next week. God knows what we'll be talking about. No, bye.
Look at it.